Hey, welcome to episode 3 of Indigenous, a series where you can explore Native and Indigenous gender diversity around the world with me. It's me,
Valentina.
We are learning with a purpose to share, help, and educate others on culture so people will respect and accept non-binary and transgender people. These people are lacking that respect and acceptance, oftentimes due to people's lack of understanding of gender, and people feeling that their own religious and cultural beliefs are more important than anybody else's. A lot of people would say,
I don't think my culture or religion is more important than anybody else's.
to which I say, girl, those Facebook posts and their implicitness are telling me otherwise. Ugh, that's Diet Coke, it's so gross. My roommate only buys Diet. Also, before we begin, don't forget, if you are learning English, you can use this video as a listening exercise. I do have a worksheet available with questions. If you want that worksheet, then just email me. My email is down below, and I'll send you the document along with a separate answer document so you can check your work too. Level is C1, maybe a high B2, I mean, it depends on. But yes, you can use this video as a listening and vocabulary exercise and also learn about culture. Okay, today's video was slightly overwhelming, but also I think my favorite one so far. I was already familiar with the terms Mahu and Hijra, episodes 1 and 2. Check them out. I was pretty much starting from scratch. Come on, idioms. Like, girl, hang on to your butts. The rabbit hole goes deep. What I mean to say is that the sheer diversity of Native American tribes on the North American continent is intense. Expansive, if you will. And to be honest, I'm kind of annoyed. I feel like I was like gypped in school growing up. There's so much to learn about Native Americans, and I feel like I learned none of it. To begin, we're gonna go over what the term TwoSpirit means. Actually, we're just gonna go from there, okay? Okay, look at this. Lumos. That was a Harry Potter term if you didn't know. Ooh, you know what? We don't support Harry Potter anymore. J.K. Rowling, not an ally, okay? Take it back. You guys know this term, right? LGBTQ. Lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, gender, queer. Oh, and then I think there's been an I added for intersex as well. It's so crazy to me. Some people make fun of this acronym. Like, it's so hard to remember 5 or 6 words. I can just hear it in my head so easily because I've heard it so many times before. People making fun of my community's acronyms be like,
What else are they gonna call themselves these days? I can't keep up with all the names people want to call themselves.
and I'm like, girl, it's like 5 words. If you can remember all of the characters in Game of Thrones and everything that happens, you can remember these words. Fight me. But you have to catch me first. She's fast. Sometimes we see LGBTQI with a 2 after it. And this stands for TwoSpirit, a term referring to Native Americans with particular gender identities. Now, it's important to note that LGBTQ is an acronym that was kind of born in the 90s in America. But as we've kind of touched on before, these terms like lesbian, bisexual, transgender, these are Western or white terms. Terms to explain concepts that Indigenous people around the world have understood for hundreds of years. So it makes sense that Native Americans would want to kind of keep their identities and themselves separate from the rest of the LGBTQ continuum. And instead of identifying with the Western terms, they chose their own 2 for TwoSpirit people, because in many tribes there are other genders. So the term TwoSpirit itself doesn't fully explain or comprehend the gender variance within Native communities in America. TwoSpirit is an umbrella term that helps outsiders to Native American communities understand that Native Americans have their own systems of gender. The term itself seems to be a little bit critiqued for this because it kind of lumps all of Native Americans together. And it's also important to note that some tribes don't recognize non-binary gender, or they don't have a term for that. So we just have to be careful not to lump Native Americans together. There's almost 600 tribes in the US alone. But the term is good in that it kind of separates Indigenous Native American people separate from everybody else. You know, because they deserve that recognition. So in making this video, I was like, oh my god, how am I gonna do this? Well, it's just an introduction, so I'm only gonna briefly talk about 4 tribes. 3 and a half. We're gonna do what we can. If we go back to the 1600s, Europeans had come to America, done the usual push their Christianity on everybody else, blah, 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 blah. But in the 1600s, these Jesuit priests coined a term, berdache, and this referred to Native American people who did not identify as male or female. Male or female defined by their European contexts and culture. Native American people do not see this term berdache as okay because literally translated, I believe it means cat boy or describes these non-binary people as male prostitutes. So, berdache, no. Two-spirit, umbrella term, okay, but even better is to recognize Native American people by the non-binary gendered term in their language or in their tribe. So without further ado, let's talk about a couple that I was able to find information on for you. All right, we're gonna start with the Lakota. Oh my gosh. This is my formal apology for the pronunciation that's about to happen in this video. I tried my best to find native speakers saying these words so that I could listen, but in some cases we were not that lucky. So we're gonna try our best. In Lakota, there's man, wika, woman, winyan, and then there are those who are in between, people who are anatomically male, but they express feminine gender. And the term for this gender is winyanteka. Winkte for short. Winkte translating as to be as a woman. In Lakota societies, Winkte were mediators, peacemakers, matchmakers, holy people, medicine people, so it's interesting, not marginalized people. Again, this is very brief, so we're gonna go to the second tribe. Okay, the second one refers to the Navajo, and the term for a non-binary person in the Navajo language is Nadle. In Navajo, Nadle means those who transform, or people who move through the gender spectrum, not really embodying just male or female, but going in between those. In Navajo society, there are 4 genders, those being very masculine, those being very feminine, those being masculine feminine, or anatomically male, expressing feminine gender, and then those being feminine masculine, the opposite. In what I read, it seems like a Nadle person again takes on more domestic types of tasks or feminine tasks, but also masculine tasks as well if needed. But it also seems like there was an emphasis on the moving in between. At some points in their life, they may need to take on the more feminine tasks, and then at other points in their life, they may need to take on more masculine tasks. So I guess this is where the transform makes sense in the term. Also, a side note, and one thing you're going to notice about researching gender, you're going to find a heavy emphasis on people who have male anatomy but express feminine gender, but you don't find as much stories, research, information about those who have female anatomy but then express male gender. Hopefully in the future there are more of these particular people recognized, because I think right now we do have to acknowledge that these people are underrepresented. Okay, and then we get to the third one, the Zuni. I wish I knew how to say this. Zuni people are gonna be reading these comments like, girl, canceled.
I was rooting for you. We were all rooting for you.
The word for a non-binary gendered person here is ihamana. A person who identifies as ihamana so bad. A person who identifies as ihamana typically carries out female tasks. Domestic tasks like cooking, pottery, weaving, but they also do male tasks as necessary. Weewa, I believe is the pronunciation, was a highly respected Zuni person, an ihamana person who lived from 1849 to 1896. And Weewa was a leader in the Zuni community and tribe and was looked up to greatly. Weewa met the President of the United States at that time, I think it was Grover Cleveland, and Weewa was well known for her expert pottery, some which has been on display at the National Museum of Washington, D.C. Okay, so there are a number of other non-binary gendered terms in other Native American tribes. You should go read about them, especially if you're, I don't know, living in America. See what I did there? I know this was really brief and we only touched on 3, but again, we're just scratching the surface today. I put a lot of resources below on some of the things that I read, but also there's some really good videos on YouTube that you can watch. videos besides mine. But there's also some very sad documentaries out there on some Native American people who have been murdered because of their gender identities, which means that this is a really important topic. So share this video, or don't, I don't care. Share some of the other resources that I put below. Share something. Because we need as many people as possible on the non-ignorant side of things when we're talking about gender. And if you're learning English and you want to use this video as a listening exercise with some vocabulary, then email's down there. Email me and I'll send that to you with the answers. And another one. Thank you so much for coming to my TED Talk. Does anybody know how to do one of those? Because that'd be fun. Oh my god, I'd be so good at TED Talks. I would pull an Oprah though. I'd be like, you get a book on gender. You get a book on gender. You too, girl. Hey. I like your sweater. Where'd you get it? What's your Instagram? Alright guys, see you next time. We're going to talk about Indonesia. Thank you so much for watching, and next time we're going to talk about Indonesia. See you then.